Oh no,
curses.
One sec. Curses. Wait. All right, and we're in.
The tech gods have cursed us, but now we're blessed.
We had the glitching condition. That's a new condition in Starfinder Second Edition. But we are back. Hi, everyone. My name is Thurston Hillman. I'm the Managing Creative Director for Starfinder. And with me is the Starfinder team, who I will be introducing. Today, we're going to talk to you about Starfinder Second Edition, show a few things, go into some details, answer a few questions, talk about some adventures, a whole bunch of stuff. We've only got like an hour, so we're going to dive right in with some introductions. We'll go based on my monitor here, because that's the one that takes precedence. So, Dustin, introduce yourself, please.
My name's Dustin Knight. I am a developer for Starfinder, working on a lot of mechanics and everything else.
Heck yeah. Jenny, introduce yourself.
I'm Jenny Jarzabski, one of the senior developers working on Starfinder. I do a lot of work on adventures and setting, but like everyone, it's been all hands on deck, and I pitched in with some class design and all kinds of other goodies.
Mike.
Hello, I'm Mike Kimmel. I'm also a developer working on Starfinder Second Edition. In a prior role at Paizo, I worked on Pathfinder Society Adventures, and on the Starfinder team, I work on adventures and all kinds of other stuff.
Whatever I need your help with.
Exactly.
And Jessica.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Catalan. I am a senior developer here at Paizo and head of the Starfinder Society. I am, of course, as part of the Starfinder team, also helping out with Starfinder Second Edition for adventures and for design work. So my pronouns are she, her, and I am thrilled to be here today.
Welcome. And Kyle.
Hi, folks. I'm your humble art director, Kyle Hunter. I'm responsible for the brand refresh and upgrading the look and feel for Starfinder 2.0, and I order all your art and do all your design.
He shouldn't be humble. He's really, really good at what he does. But yeah, this is the Starfinder team. So we're going to dive right into it today. We have a lot to go over today. So the first thing we're going to start with, and we want to leave some room for questions. Like, let's be honest. I know there's some questions out there. Captain Concierge on Dustin. Sure, look, we got a whole lot going on here. So we're going to start off by talking about the Starfinder Second Edition playtest rulebook. You should be seeing a picture of that for the launch, the playtest. We've shown it off a few times before, but if you see this lovely piece of art by our own concept artist, Ken Hamilton, this is it. This is the 264 softback book that we are releasing that is going to have all of the rules for running Starfinder games in conjunction with the Pathfinder Second Edition rules set to kind of set the stage so we can get as much data as we need to really dive into a new edition of the game. So as we talked about before, there's a lot of new mechanics and rules in here, a lot of new tools that we want people to play around with, see what they like, see what they don't like, give us feedback on that. But I think we've talked about this a lot before. I think maybe people want to see a bit more meat and potatoes on what's going on.
I think so.
Yeah. So how about we show something else? How about we show a class spread specifically for a class we haven't talked a ton about before, but this is the opening class spread for the Operative that we're gonna pop up on screen.
Secret preview.
I know.
Just
Secret
for you.
preview. You can see this here. We can leave it up for a little bit because I'm sure people will be eagle-eyed, hyper-analyzing everything.
Pictures. Enhance.
Enhance. Look at that. Look at that. Like last ability. People who've played Pathfinder Second Edition before, like, I know all those opening abilities. They're just filler that tell me all the stuff I normally get anyways. But then right at the bottom, you can see there's an aim action. Haha, that's new. But we don't describe it till the next page, so you're gonna have to wait for that. And again, this layout is really brought to us by Kyle's work. Kyle again kind of ran with this. But you want to talk a little bit about sort of the initial layout and concepting for this book,
I can't
Kyle?
see where you're sharing this, but I know what the spread looks like.
Yeah.
Well, there were a couple in the redesign as a whole. I think there was a couple things I was trying to accomplish. The Starfinder look and feel had been around for a while, and I feel like it was kind of rooted in the time it was developed, where everything was kind of stamped out of metal and had a very constructed kind of starship feel to it. And that was ignoring, I think, a strong, huge portion of Starfinder, which is kind of the whimsy, the fantasy, the kind of uncertainty of space. So what I tried to do in at least this border in the new what we call trade dressing was to lighten it up and make it feel like something less locked down and something a bit more fantastic, something that was a little bit more about playing with light and playing with distortion in space, and freeing it up a little bit and kind of playing up the whimsy a bit more. Another big focus was I've been in the tabletop industry for a while, but I've also spent quite a bit of time in video games, and I think how character sheets work in video games is very intuitive and very easy. And I try to integrate some like wayfinding mechanics where if information was essential, you didn't have to dig down into the page, that it was just kind of there and seemed apparent, you know, and had kind of an inherent call to action to it, you know, that people recognize, you know, what amounts to like futuristic character building. And I wanted to bring some of that fun into Starfinder.
Yeah, well, some of the most fun meetings I think I've had were getting some of the layout and designs, whether it was, you know, some of the new logos we were looking at or some of just the page treatments. Our team has a blast anytime we get anything art related. It will be like, stop anything we're doing. We could be in the middle of a meeting and we'll get like a new thing from Kyle or Kent, and it'll be like, stop the meeting, look at this piece of art, let's talk about it, which is, you know, a really fun part of our job. So we saw the operative there, real briefly. You know, we've had a bunch of people who've done different work on this, but I think the original starting point for the operative, Jessica, that was you, wasn't it? You did
It sure was.
Yeah, you wanna tell us just a thing or two about the operative as a class and sort of what sings to you about it?
So in first edition, operatives are really like the skill monkey, but also the heavy damage dealer to single targets. And in second edition, we really wanted to reevaluate what each of these classes is kind of at their core and at their heart and what we want them to be. So to us, the operative wasn't skilled at everything, right? They're highly skilled in a specific specialization and they are master marksmen. So this is very much like the gunner class. You aim at your target, you take them down, and you keep moving. You know, maybe you're a sniper, maybe you're close quarters with a pistol. We do have a melee build for them, but at their heart, this is very much a mobile, hard-hitting, tactical precision gunner. You know, and it was a lot of fun trying to bring that into the game system in like a dynamic way.
Yeah. One thing again, eagle-eyed enhanced viewers who've already noticed proficiency in guns. Well, what's a gun? We describe that in the class and what is a gun in our system mechanically speaking. So yeah, you'll see more of that. Again, really trying to focus some of these classes on a bit more of the, you know, future fantasy science fiction elements there and making sure that they stand on their own. I think this archetype we had a lot of inspirations, you know. I think I at least watched John Wick twice. You know, there's a couple. Yeah, definitely. So how about we hop on to something else here? This is something I know Dustin's been very excited for, but let's pull up feats. Let's take a look at feats and what we've got in store in this book for feats. I think we have a spread of that we can show. This is something we wanted to, you know, push boundaries with a little bit. We also wanted to create feats that would work for Pathfinder characters and enhance that. One thing, you know, certainly Pathfinder fans have asked for a lot has been more skill feats, more general feats. This is an opportunity for us to create some that are very bespoke to Starfinder, but also a lot of them that are very general and can work in both game systems. Dustin, did you want to talk a little bit about these?
Oh yeah. So we have in the playtest currently about 64 new skill and general feats. Most of more than half of them will work in PF2 with honestly no adjustments, and then a lot of the others minimal adjustments. If you wanted to play in a, you know, pre-gap setting, but a lot of these are just honestly like the ideas the team had coming together with these were incredible. So many of them are so flavorful and so evocative and cinematic that you could almost look at them and be like, wow, I can I want to figure out a way to make my character operate off this
This one feat.
yeah. I mean, not so much as a class feat per se, but it's getting there. And I'm really excited to see how which class feats people choose and how people respond to these, or the skill feats people choose and how they respond to these.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones in there. One I enjoyed, we've had a lot of people who've been like, what about shooting while you're prone? Well, there's some feats for that. And we've got some very interesting options available, and things you'll even see on this thing preview we just showed, like diving for cover, or one of my favorite, feigning death. There's some fun stuff. There's some fun stuff in here, as well as things just like that we can only do in like a future fantasy kind of setting. I think it was, Jenny, I think you came in with a lot of the skills relating to infospheres, and we actually had a discussion. There's a performance feat in there, like a series of them for like doing a dazzling or a sparkling performance. And we got into like some intense internal discussions of like, where do the sparkles come from? Are they magic? Are they not magic? These were actual discussions we got to have as part of designing this book. And in some cases, we're like, the sparkles can be whatever you need them to be, because that's, part of the fun of the game, right? Like, I don't know, maybe yours are tech, maybe they are magical, whatever's going to work. But Jenny, you had some fun making some of those types of feats, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there's still, just also to keep in mind as you're kind of looking at this is still just a play test, which we haven't even launched yet. We're hoping to get your feedback and to help us try these out, because as Dustin said, there's some really cool options, like Thirsty mentioned infosphere and computer related skills. There's some feats and skills, new skill actions that allow you to do things like create virtual items. So whether that's apps or you're doing that to earn income, maybe in a city, like you're a coder and that's what you do for your day job, or maybe it's your day job and adventuring is your moonlight, I don't know, but we've got some cool stuff like that. And we're really interested to see what it actually plays out like in more of your playtest games. And do you feel like this really meets the expectation? Like, these are all built on the PF2 rules chassis, but there's these additional aspects because it is a science fantasy game in a futuristic society with lots of technology. So we really want to hear about your experiences as the playtest launches in playing with this in your games, whether it's our modules, which we'll talk about in just a bit, or on your own.
How about equipment? How about go ahead, Dustin.
I was
go ahead.
Say, and this is a science fantasy setting. While there are, of course, a lot of technological feats, there's a lot of magic feats too. There's feats for every tradition that give you special forms of vision, magical eyes that can look through stuff, and there's a lot of just really cool feats here. I hope people like.
Yeah,
but also, Danny.
Oh no, I figured you were transitioning into equipment, and
yes.
I was going to say that like any kind of sci-fi or good looter shooter, modern or sci-fi game, it matters what kind of gear you're packing. So we want to show off a spread here. I know we've got some art to show off, another little sneak preview of some
equipment
of our
and gear.
Equipment. We have so much. We know that you like to buy new gear and loot gear after encounters. We want that to remain a part of our game. So how much do we have Thirsty packed into this?
We actually have spells. Spells have showed up.
Oh no.
I think we have spells showing up here.
Which Witchwarper is
Witchwarper magic has got into the stream here. That's fine though. We can briefly talk about spells.
Yeah, we can flip over to spells.
We'll shift gears. Spells. You know what?
Oh no! All right, there's equipment. Okay, we're doing equipment
now.
Okay, we've got it. All right,
so
you can see here some of our equipment here. We're looking at some of the upgrades that we have for the game right now. Some of these are going to some of these are going to look familiar to you. We've got things like jetpacks, jump jets.
Classic
ones.
You want
lifters.
that. Trust me. It's good with 3-action economy. It's real good.
Force fields, even though the table's on this page, but like it's not there. You can tell we're going to have force fields. So, we have a lot of different equipment. Mike, you did some work on equipment in this book, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
It's really fun to design some equipment, kind of keeping in mind the play style that we want to have in Starfinder of a lot of ranged combat, and designing a lot of creatures, aliens, and things that might fly around. And well, we want your characters to be able to survive such encounters, and so arming them with the right equipment for those encounters was kind of a key thing. I did a lot of work on augmentations as well, which are obviously something Starfinder has that does not exist in Pathfinder Second Edition right now. I think people will be happy to see a lot of classic augmentations, as well as some new interesting ones that they have not seen before.
Oh, yes. Some really fun stuff that shows up in like augmentations and equipment. I mean, there's a lot of your standard stuff, your dark vision visors, your glamour projectors. But then we got into some just different things, things that, maybe are a bit out there, especially when we talk about magic items, because it is still a magic game.
Yes.
I don't want to go back to the sparkling performance feat
You
tree,
do.
but maybe there's like a magic item just called the Diva's microphone in here that and then we have an excellent piece of artwork for that some of you've seen before. You'll notice some of the artwork in this book is a mix of sort of older Starfinder artwork, newer Starfinder artwork. Trust me, we're gonna give you a whole lot of new artwork in the final books. I can kind of see the tears coming out of Kyle's eye as we've just given him about 700 art pieces to order or some ridiculous number. Yeah, I see the yup. But we're very art is always one of those exciting things, and there is some certainly new art in here that's really kicked it up, especially in terms of like the ancestries and the classes. But some of this was re-looking at old stuff we did and like updating it to a new end. So that sort of talks us through equipment. How about spells? How about now we talk about spells and magic, because I think spells has some really cool stuff. We showed it before, but we'll show it again. We have a lot of different types of spells in here. Holographic memory that you're going to see up there is a great one. Injury echo is a fun cantrip. A lot of just like implanting data, a lot of things that interact with like computers and infospheres. Holographic memory is something that I got inspired from a piece of media. I really like the Horizon Zero Dawn games. I love seeing like background things like rendered in holograms, and I'm like, that should be a magic spell, obviously. And that would be some of how we came across and just did magic in this, was thinking of neat things. Dustin, I know you're now banned from doing anything void or eldritch related in future content. I know we have a lot of fans of the eldritch out there. We sure have a lot of eldritch based spells in this, don't we?
Many. We have so many, and I don't want to see any more. Well, I do actually. I love them, but we're good on them for a little while. I'm sure they'll be.
We've met our quota. Our eldritch quota
is more in the future, but like, when I was cropping out spells, I was like, okay, we need a good variety of damage types and themes, and we can't just but yeah, there are 126 spells in this book. Quite a few of them are tech inspired, but plenty of them work for your Luddite mystics as well.
Absolutely. And some of them, like one of the fun things we got to do with the game was kind of add some maybe one or two pop culture references snuck into this book. Maybe spells like vibe check are just like, oh, great. But then like Dustin was saying, we have some fairly things you would expect to see, right? Like your mind skewer, or your speak with computers, like some common ones you would expect. But then there's maybe a couple like new game is a fun one. which is a 10th level spell. That's all I'm gonna say on that one. And yeah, we just got to have a lot of fun. You'll be seeing a lot more of these as we get closer. I'm gonna. Does anyone else have a favorite spell they want? I'm gonna save one spell that I'm gonna say right at the end before we move on, though.
We almost had a spell that does infinite damage, but I didn't quite
Yeah.
get it
That's
in.
true. We didn't quite get there. We had to. That was actually a
Isn't it
discussion.
999 damage? Isn't that what
No.
it actually is now? Or did
Oh,
that survive?
no,
Oh.
not quite.
Not quite. You might be
Well,
missing one number on that.
We're missing a digit
missing a
there.
digit
there.
Oh, okay.
I said maybe there's some fun references. Any other spells people want to call out before I?
It's over 9,000 anyway.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I mean, you took new game.
I'm
Game is
gonna.
good.
If you didn't already say that one.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I like the one where you basically have a black hole in your pocket. That's pretty cool.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna move us away from spells, but as we move away from spells, I am gonna say there is a spell whose intro text is: you manipulate the target's genetic code and accelerate the inevitable, pressuring the target to undergo carcinization and become a crab. That's all I'm saying. I'm just gonna say there's a spell that maybe turns people into crabs in this book. All right, so that's it for spells. How about we talk a little bit, just open mic for a sec on UNA, and let's start favorite thing in the playtest. As favorite thing is part of the playtest rulebook. And I'm gonna start the opposite side. I'm gonna pick on Kyle here. What was your favorite thing with the playtest core rulebook in this process? Unmute.
Well, it was just a tremendous opportunity for me to just redesign the book from the ground up. I mean, and everyone was so supportive, and I got so little pushback, either because of the scheduling or because it was working out good. But
it was working out good. It was working out good.
No, I feel it's for a company like Paizo that now has become kind of non-centralized, and we don't have big rooms to kind of brainstorm anymore in person and everything. I really enjoyed the creative process of just going back and forth. I have to admit, like many graphic designers, I don't read as much of the content I'm laying out as I probably should. These are all dream words that float over me like vibe checks and
crab spells question mark.
It's I mean, this isn't so much about the end result as the process. It's just the team at Paizo is just super fun to work with and collaborate with, and there isn't as much of a one-to-one as you'd think between the developers and those of us who lay out the books and stuff. But I really had a personal stake in this, so I just really appreciate the team and everything, and the opportunity to get to do this, and the trust you guys placed in me to kind of, like I said, kind of get it out from being everything stamped in aluminum to being a little dreamier and freakier. So
he nailed it. He this book is gorgeous, and the other stuff we've got coming up is also similarly gorgeous. So you nailed it, Kyle.
Secret. I like the other logo that I did better.
Okay. Here's a little story.
Juicy.
This is Kyle putting myself and Eric Mona, our publisher, on blast a little bit here. We had to approve several logos. There were a bunch, and there is one that Kyle did, which was very different, and it was cool. And maybe one day we'll show it so Kyle can live this moment. But Eric and I were like,
nerds.
We're like, it's a bit too extra.
My only regret, but yeah,
was not fighting
really,
us more on it. No, but
yeah.
it was
yeah. I just it was just great. It was probably the most fun project I've ever worked on. Just from like I said, the trust and the back and forth that we had. It's I felt very valued and part of the team.
Because you are, and I'm not just saying that because we've got
Yay.
four rule books that we're going to be doing next, and you've got about another 1,000 pages in
We
the
need you,
hopper.
Kyle.
Jessica,
Leave me
how
alone
about
and
you?
let me do it.
Yeah, Jessica, how about you?
I am kind of go along the same route here. Like, getting to work on Starfinder Second Edition all together as a team is not something that we usually have a chance to do, right? I mean, I'm usually an organized play that's pretty isolated as far as, you know, the projects you're working on and things like that, and even the rest of the team, right? People who are normally on mechanics or normally adventures, everybody got to get in and do so many concepting meetings and planning meetings, and, you know, what do we personally want to bring forward into second edition, what matters to us, what stories do we want to tell. Everybody got a chance to try designing like everything, right? Everybody's written some playtest adventures for us. Like, everybody really got to get in there, and it was really nice to get to do that too, you know. As far as literal content in the book, I'm a sucker for Ancestries, and I got to get my greedy little hands on a whole lot of them, either to develop them or to write them. So the Ancestries are my favorite. I mean, Barathu was great. It feels a really interesting niche. It's really adaptable. It gets a flying ancestry right out of the gate, and it's just a really great example of like how weird you can get, and that's totally normal. It's not weird at all, but it is weird, you know. I see a hand. Are you saying something, Kyle?
Well, I was going to say, in the case of the Barathu in particular, it is funny to art order something where you're like, well, it's going to be an alien. It doesn't look human at all, but we're going to need like a few very specific characterful things. So I always get a chuckle when you have to like give someone's like, well, they're amorphous. And so I very much appreciate, yeah, the Barathu are kind of a favorite of mine.
Great fun. It was also really good to get to do Skittermanders. You know, you either love them or you hate them, maybe. I love them. I'm firmly on the love side. So it was great to get to bring them to life in second edition. And also Prismenes. I got to do both Versatile Heritages, Brian Prismeni, but Prismeni I got to pitch and concept and write in first edition. So it was really nice to get to do that all over again in second edition as one of our launch Versatile Heritages. And it was just a really fun, rewarding experience.
And so since we showcased a little Skittermander stuff, I'm going to toss a few more Skittermander tidbits here, since, you know, people are curious on what's going to make good. I'm just going to say that they have a heritage that lets you keep your stomach mouth and get a natural attack if you want to be like a horrific Skittermander, or one that's like, maybe you only use 4 of your arms instead of 6, but get a climb speed because your extra arms are for locomotion. And for those of you who are worried about they should move faster, there is a first level feat, ancestry feat called Hyper, that lets you move faster. It's really fun. Mike, how about you? What are you taking away from this project here?
It's so hard to choose. One of the cool things I worked on a lot was classes, of course, which I've done some work for various class feats and things for various games in the past, but this is the first time I've like really dived into core classes. The Witch Warper is one I worked a lot on that we haven't announced much about them yet. So I'll talk about Solarian instead, which is fun because it was the very first thing I got to work on when I joined the Starfinder team. Was Thirsty said, hey, make a Solarian character for a playtest game. And so I got to make a character which was like work, and it felt like work too, because instead of like opening a book that exists with everything laid out neatly and making a character, it was like, okay, I need to look at these 17 different documents that are all in process of spreadsheets and all these things and think about it. But working on Solarian was a real thrill, and I loved kind of designing abilities that let their various solar manifestations kind of work together, because we've said in various AMAs and stuff that Solarians get their solar weapon, their solar armor, and their solar shot all right away at level 1. And so instead of like in first edition where you kind of have to pick and choose, so designing abilities that kind of let those things flow together with the 3-action economy and give the Solarian lots of ways to interact in combat was pretty fun.
I think in that first session too that you showed up, you're also like, I'm going to take the first level feat that lets me have a solar shield too. So you had all the Solarian tech there.
Oh yes.
Which is pretty fun. How about you, Jenny?
So like everyone, I think my favorite thing is just converting classic Starfinder flavor, like all the really cool aliens like Barathus that fly at level 1, but also edit their own genetic code and like at later levels can do that mechanically in ways that they could select different feats, which is really cool. Ancestry feats. Also, and just converting that into PF2 rules, which is distilling it down to its essence and figuring out how to make that work in this other system in some ways that can be more dynamic because of the 3-action economy it has. So that's been really cool. We've all worked together so much on these. It's hard to drill down, but I know I really enjoyed writing a lot of the backgrounds in the playtest rulebook, like just considering what types of archetypes for sci-fi, sci-fantasy characters people might want to play, from recluses to sports players. And you're going to see all that actually in our team playtest that we're airing, I think, later today. So stick around.
4 p.m.
Yeah,
Pacific.
so if you want to see some of my backgrounds in action, check that out. But I also liked working on Witch Warper. Now, I created a busted version of the Witch Warper.
Oh,
my
man. Oh,
first
man.
draft was like, I think Jason Bowman was sweating. Like,
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think he had like the most polite, like, we will have to talk about this after this session.
Yeah, so those of you who are familiar with my design work know that I
gosh.
do push the limit to fulfill a narrative fantasy. So like if I see like I wanted to do this cool thing, I'm gonna go ham. But what was really helpful was later Mike Kimmel came in after we got that feedback from the team and from some play tests. Mike is awesome and came in and he did a lot of work on it, and he kind of like restructured it in some ways and added just like an extra bit to it that's really good. I've seen
anchor.
Yeah, can we talk about that?
Can we please?
Well,
I'm seeing it in chat. People ask
yeah,
me,
people are like, Witch Warper.
trolling
Well,
for info.
how about we leave it at, Witch Warpers are cool. They get to have, a paradox, but that is their like sort of disassociation from reality. And then they have something that anchors them, and both of those are things they get to pick. And the anchor is something that lets them re-anchor themselves, so they don't go flying off into the multiverse or through time or whatever weirdness they've got going on. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Yeah. So it's really cool. And the Solarian Mike mentioned is a great example, but the Witch Warper is another example of a classic Starfinder class that just, I think we have just created another iteration of it that's really cool. And I can't wait till you try it.
Yes. Dustin, bring us home before we talk about adventures.
Sure. For me, it's merely being able to work with so many different amazing developers and designers, both in this team and the Pathfinder team. Creating a new edition of the game is, during my interview when they asked me what kind of book would you want to write, I had a million ideas in my head for different books I've always wanted to see, but it really came down to, oh man, if I could write a second edition to Starfinder, that would be incredible, but I don't see myself doing that for another 5 to 10 years, so I get it.
Surprise!
And yeah, and the skill feats and the weapons and classes, and being able to work on all these at like the proto forms. You're not just, given an outline and told like, we need a swarm related archetype. No, it's we need, the base classes that will create the assumptions of this game. How are they going to function, and how are the teams going to get along, and being able to talk like I want, maybe the Mystics should bond with all their allies so they could have that RP experience that then also has mechanical implications. And maybe instead of having to like look at spell slots and channel dice and all this other stuff, they just have a big pool of hit points and it goes between their bonds. And, being involved at things when it's at that primordial kind of form is incredible, because you can see it from the very beginning all the way up until our players are rolling dice, and that is I would trade that for the world.
Heck yeah. All right, so we got some other stuff to show. We're gonna try to get through this a little bit faster just so we can leave some room for questions, just a little bit. So how about we talk about the modules? The first one, we got some art for A Cosmic Birthday. This is written by our own Jenny Jarzabski, developed by Mike Kimmel. Here's the cover art for it. Again, we've got kind of this like more comic book style, which has got just a lot of praise.
I love this scene.
I love the dynamism of what's going on in the scene, the passing of the ammo, the whatever that thing is. Oh, I think
You're gonna see that thing. Don't worry.
Yeah,
if you play this.
it's got an interesting name, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
What's its category called? Do you know that?
Yeah, so it's one of the midwives. So a midwife singular is a new type of extraplanar outsider that we introduce in Starfinder Second Edition, and you can first encounter them here in a Cosmic Birthday.
Ooh,
So
interesting.
speaking of all the eldritch and cosmic weird times horror kind of themes, you can get a little bit of that in this playtest adventure, as well as just getting to playtest a variety of encounters. Not meant to stress test the game, but just meant to give you a sense, like give you something to do with these characters you built using this playtest rulebook.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is going to be a first level adventure. It's 64 pages. We are going to be selling these PDF and adventure because, as we mentioned before, these aren't going to be like stress tests like we've done in the past. These are quality Paizo adventures that are focused on, you know, all the sort of things we typically do in our adventures, and we wanted to make sure we're capturing an experience because we already did sort of the stress testing for this engine way back in Doomsday Dawn. We wanted to make sure we were providing people with engaging story experiences that even after the playtest you can come back. I think there's some fun art too here of like you know, some trouble on Absalom Station that's going on, maybe an NPC that might show up. I think we've got some art for them here. But that's pretty neat. Just seeing if it's, yeah, there we go. Oh, look at that. It looks great. We've also got you know, a setting event here. A really big setting event that has some art for it. You know, Cosmic Birthday, if you're gonna have a birthday, something should be born or celebrating a thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at that. Look at that little spread here. Oh gosh, the newborn. I wonder what that's all about. People
There's actually 3 birthdays in a Cosmic Birthday. So if you play or read this, I encourage you to, much like in the highlights children's magazines of old, try to find the 3 birthdays in this adventure. But this is the big one. This is the big setting event birthday, the newborn's birth.
Big spoilers there, by the way.
Long
Big spoilers.
look at this on the screen, by the way. If you're not watching, take a look for the screen grab, or just wait till it comes out. It's coming.
Yeah. And then also we got Little Akaton, which is the place where this adventure takes place, right? Like Mike, you did some development on this. Like, you know, you got to see Little Akaton. What do you think about how that sort of worked out as a location?
I mean, I think one of the most fun parts of this adventure is how it ties characters into a community. So, you know, this adventure is essentially, where were you when the Cosmic Birthday takes place? And you've got this newborn deity, and everything's very weird, and there's psychic stuff going on, and there's a community in trouble, and you are there and you are part of it. And so this story is not just about like your heroes and fighting monsters and then you defeat them and you win, but there's a lot of role playing and investigation and working in a diner, as you can see in our beautiful art here. And so it's not just like jumping from one encounter to another. There's certainly lots of exciting, thrilling combat to enjoy, but there is also just a lot of Starfinder stuff to do and to enjoy. And I love kind of working on that and developing the characters and the locations and personalities that Jenny brought to life.
And we could do a whole thing talking about adventures, which is probably why we don't have as much longer in this panel as I'd like, and I want to get some questions. So we're gonna call that a Cosmic Birthday because we talked about it a bit before. We've shown off some pretty big spoilers in there. How about we jump to the second module? Written by some guy.
Named Thurston Hillman, our managing creative director.
This is Empires Devoured. This is the second module that we'll be releasing. Again, 64 pages. Before Kyle can jump in, there's a cool like trademark title that hasn't been previewed yet, but you'll see that in, I'm sure, the coming weeks. Kyle did a really good job on the cover treatment for Empires Devoured. But here you can see the cover art that we just had for it. And Empires Devoured is a 10th level adventure. It starts off a war between the Aslanti Star Empire and the Vescarium. It has, as you might guess from the title, some nefarious nefarious cultists of a deity. Deity who might have some connections into some War of Immortals stuff. Wait, what? Well, you'll have to read some of that and figure that out.
What?
So
this is
yeah,
also our higher level playtest,
this,
right?
This
Thirsty?
is, yes, and this allowed me as you know, a freelancer to sort of go in and create some really bespoke you know, encounters in different types. We have, you know, there's some conflict in here. You know, we have like these cultists that I mentioned. So you'll see some art of them that's really engaging. I really like some of the art we got out of this. Honestly, the art in this was just stunning. But yeah, we
there
have
he is.
there. Yeah, there you can see that. That person is clearly an agent of chaos. But along with some of those types of threats, we have some maybe some new Aslanti threats. Something is going on in the Aslanti Star Empire that nobody saw coming, and you're gonna get the first look. This is not the traditional green that we have seen on the Aslanti. This is a member of the Sahedron Guard, and the Sahedron Guard are something new that you're going to learn a lot about in the new edition, and are going to be probably the most punchable space fascists that we have designed thus far, and I look forward to people getting to punch them. So you'll see more of them. We will also certainly have other things, you know, hazards. One of the cool things in this adventure for me was using the hazard rules for the second edition engine here. I got to have
so much fun with that.
You have no idea how much fun I got.
I remember messaging Thirsty, like, I just read one where the hazard DC, like, you know, avoid the hazard is pray to your god to make it stop, and it's a religion check.
Yeah, you get to make a religion check to pray to
good.
your god to make the hazard stop, and that counts towards the disable rules. There's also one that is maybe digital based, and if you have profession gambling, you can, or sorry, if you have gambling lore, you can make that to go and get loot boxes to make it easier to beat the hazard. This is the type of fun we get to have in Starfinder, and it's really exceptional. Here, yeah, you can see Day and Zamir fending off a hazard that we
have.
One
of those nasty hazards.
One of those nasty hazards that I wrote. Yeah, so that's Empires Devoured. Really, we are we're just so excited for these adventures. I know Empires Devoured is gonna really change the face of Starfinder in a lot of ways. It sets up a lot of big things, much like our prior adventure. You know, Cosmic Birthday sets up the Newborn. This sets up a conflict we're going to be exploring. The Vesca-Aslanti War is not a one and done thing. It is something that will be permeating perhaps the entirety of this edition of the game. We have plans for it, and we're not just going to have one adventure and call it done. Let's leave it at that. And then that brings us to you know, playtest scenarios. Jessica, you want to talk a little bit about the playtest scenarios that we're doing?
Do.
Heck yeah.
So we have 4 Starfinder playtest scenarios that are releasing. 2 are going to come out at Gen Con alongside the playtest, plus 1 in September and 1 in October. Each is a short single-session adventure designed to be played in 2 to 3 hours and written by a member of the Starfinder team. So there are Starfinder playtest scenario number 1 that is Shards of the Glass Planet, is a level 1 first contact style scenario written by Mike Kimmel that takes place on the planet of Burnham's Bubble, which until very recently had been encased in an impenetrable force field. Starfinder playtest scenario number 2, that is It Came from the Vast. This is a level 5 horror themed scenario written by me, Jessica Catalan. In this adventure, you discover a Xenowarden starship, the Bloom, reading wildly through packed world space, clearly out of control. You get to board the starship, try to help out the crew, but it is obvious something clearly terrible has occurred. Starfinder playtest scenario number 3, that is Wheel of Monsters. It is a level 10 tactical combat themed scenario. You can join Zoe on his latest game show, The Wheel of Monsters. Step right up, spin that wheel, and get ready to fight for your lives. It is a wild, adaptable adventure written by Dustin Knight. And number 4, announced right now for the first time, Rescue at Shimmerstone Mine. This is a level 15 adventure written by Jenny Jarzabski. We are keeping details on that one sparse because I'm still developing it, but it is a Magitech-themed dungeon delve and rescue mission that occurs at a Shimmerstone Mine in the Vesperium.
Heck yeah. One thing about those that is very interesting is that we're doing different level ranges. So, we have a first, a fifth, a 10th, a 15th. That's really to give you some content to play test. If you don't want to make your own content or just don't have the time we're trying to give, we'll have by Gen Con in the release, we're going to have pre-generated characters for first and fifth levels. We will not be providing 10th and 15th. If you're going to play test that, we expect you to make your own murder monstrosities to come at us with. And I know, Dustin, you're very excited for Wheel of Monsters, right?
Oh man, yeah.
Not just because you wrote it, but you have some reasons as to why.
Right, yeah. So I included I'm not sure, I think there's going to be in a sidebar, but there's some information in there and the elements within the adventure itself that make it especially fun to run at conventions, game shops if you want to get as many people as possible to try the game, or even online streaming if you want some audience interaction. There's some elements in there that you could easily adapt for use with that.
Super, super cool. Well, that is, I think, it for everything. I do want to say before we get to the QA, one thing just to know: we are going to have a whole bunch of news at Gen Con. Like we're kind of in like the pre-party here, but once those rule books, once the core rule book, the playtest core rule book, and our module get released at Gen Con, expect us to have a whole slew of new announcements. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things come Gen Con. So please come back then. But for now, we've got some QA items. I've been seeing a couple questions come in. I see a couple here. That let's just dive in on some of these. Dabber Raccoon had asked, been out of the loop a while. What about multi-armed rules and where we're at with those? Which I think is a question people want to ask, especially because we showed a 6-armed Skittermander. Anyone have anything they want to discuss about multi-arms? I know for me, we're gonna obviously have multi-armed rules in the playtest rulebook. One of the things is we want people to playtest it and see how it feels. Like that's one thing where, we're trying to do it in a way that's going to be balanced, but also, is going to be fun to play. So we're really curious to see how that works out. Does anyone have any thoughts on that as it goes? I've seen a lot of questions about like the switch hands having to interact or manipulate traits or anything like that. It has none of those traits. None of those traits. It is an action with no traits.
Yeah, I just want
Ta-da.
to say we just want your feedback. So check that out when the playtest is out. Please playtest it. Let us know. There'll probably be a survey about it because that is something we're interested in. We have Skittermanders, Kasathas. We have a lot of you can augment yourself by adding some prosthetic limbs. So we care about multi-arm rules and what you think of them.
Yeah. Kyle. Oh, you're muted, Kyle.
Oh no.
I'd seen some people in the feed ask, who possibly dislike. I don't like Skittermanders, so I'm going to go down on record.
Whoa! Damn!
People like you
Confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm, yeah. Little lick spittles.
Kyle coming out swinging from the sidebar.
Yeah.
Everybody. Excellent.
Little collaborators.
Kyle's vision.
Yeah, I don't like them. Just going on record.
I saw a manga that says, what does upgrade plus mean? Well, upgrade plus means that there's a variety of different levels. So much like you'll see our equipment has, commercial, tactical, advanced, superior, etc., etc. A lot of our upgrades have that too. That's a way for us to scale equipment as the campaign goes on. Let's just do some bigger things. Very, very exciting there. So
Is there an easy way to remember the scale system?
We call it the C-Taze up. If you spell it out, it's not easy to remember, but trust me, it's become easy for us to remember. But it's actually like just helps us internally. It's something we refer to as the C-Taze up scaling. But generally we keep everything consistent. That way we're sort of avoiding what happened in Starfinder First Edition, where like every type of weapon had its own bespoke scaling. So it was kind of like hard, like an advanced pistol versus a Corona laser pistol versus we wanted to simplify that just because it also let us, advanced weapons together, do a lot of things like that. Oh, here's a question that I think is an interesting one for us here as we come on down in time. Starship combat and commenting on Starship combat. That's an interesting one.
Lots of folks asking about that.
So we're not going to talk exactly, about Starship combat in a like specific sense, but I do want to address this a bit as far as where the team is at, what we've been working on. Starship combat's been something we've been talking about pretty heavily in our current design work right now. And one thing we're very interested in is, making sure that we take the time to do Starship combat right, and also look at how people are generally playing at their tables. There's always kind of two sets of Starship combat. There's the party who has invested in their starship and wants to have their, Millennium Falcon Serenity style game. And then there's the Starship combats that occur because you have been given a starship and like it's an encounter that is part of the journey you're on. We're looking at having both those modes of play be a bit different in how they work, so that a scenario that maybe provides you with a starship gives you a way to have a starship experience, whether it's a combat, a chase, or whatnot. We're currently calling that, let's say, cinematic starship combat, in terms of how we're delivering it. But then, for the folks who want maybe a bit more involved, build a bear starship style work, that's something we're deep in the minds on. But I will say, one thing we've looked at as a team has been looking at where the focus of Starship combat is and what the type of game is. And that's something we're heavily exploring. One thing that I think, I've received a lot of feedback on and have seen at tables myself is this sort of problem where, well, the pilot's the only person who gets to move the miniature, and we only move our miniature once. And is that, the best expression of this? We're really kind of taking a step back and looking at from a whole different angle right now. Dustin, you had your hand up.
I just want to point out one of the goals we have right now with cinematic Starship combat is making sure that if your players just stumble upon a ship that you didn't expect them to, you could run it more easily than you would if you have no prep time. You didn't expect suddenly Starship combat. You could use cinematic Starship combat to resolve it more easily than having to stat out an entire starship.
Yeah, so these are sort of the directions we're not going too in depth. And again, I would say come back to us at Gen Con. We'll talk a little bit more about where our direction is. But this is something that has definitely been on the docket. There's a couple things that I'm gonna bring up here. Just quick questions that we can answer really fast. Will there be a special edition of the playtest core rulebook? No, there will not. The playtest core rulebook will be a softback 264-page book. We don't want to have a whole bunch of versions of this book floating around. Really, it's a playtest book. In fact, we're probably going to be doing updates to it throughout the playtest period, so that there could be changes to it. We don't want people to buy a special edition book or, have stores have to stock 3 different versions of the thing. We want to make sure that really we're focusing on the playtest more than trying to wring some money out of you. That's not what we're here for. We're gonna get all your money when you see the amazing cool rule books that we're gonna be having in 2025. Trust me, no pressure, Kyle. And then any tips to adjust mech combat? We'll be talking about mech combat in the future. We got nothing to say
Don't
about
worry.
mech combat in 2E. Yeah, don't worry. Jenny's there in
I'll
every
never
meeting.
shut up about it. Yeah,
Every
it's gonna happen. Every meeting.
Yeah. So, just that. Any questions any of you have seen that you wanted to sort of jump in on and bring up here?
Someone asked what the level 1 chainsaw options are. And it has been a long time since high school I've wanted to design a glaive or naginata with a chainsaw on the end of it. So we finally got it, and it makes me so happy.
It's a pain glaive. There's a pain glaive, y'all.
Yeah.
It's pain.
I also saw a question about lightsabers, which, that's not a thing in our game, but Solarians do have solar armaments. So they have solar weapons, which can be anything and literally have traits like normal weapons. And they can, have cool times where it turns into fire and does all kinds of cool fire and light based effects, and times that it's gravity based effects. So that's not lightsabers, but I think that's pretty freaking cool. There's that.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
Someone asked if I want to talk more about the Witch Warper, and the answer is yes.
Yes.
Wow. Gosh. All right. How the Witch Warper is a very cool class. We got to leave some spoilers for the books,
Yeah.
some things that maybe
Yes.
we've not gone into. So we'll hold it there. We've already spoiled a bit with anchors. Mike, you're pushing on your Witch Warper.
I'll keep
He's pushing reality. One of the
Uh,
paradoxes you can get is like a gap touch thing, which is pretty cool. Kyle,
I just really wanted to give a shout out to someone who's not here. Kent Hamilton,
Yes.
our concept artist, has done a lot of fantastic work, kind of building out some alien species that really we've only seen one or two pictures of, and kind of creating an in-house Bible as far as where these characters go, what their ships look like, and there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work he's doing, and you'll see a lot of that expressed in our iconics have grown between editions. So there's a lot of little Easter eggs and details that went into glowing up and growing up the various Starfinder iconics, and that's been something else that's been really fun to look at.
Yeah, one thing for future projects, Kent has been doing some concept art. We recently got some in, and on the topic of Barathu, one of the things with Barathu we've often felt is every Barathu art piece we've ordered has kind of looked the same because you provide them this one art reference, and they're like, "Well, I have no idea how to deviate from whatever that is." We had Kent go ahead and do up some new renditions and some like, this is what it could look, and oh my gosh. Also as Kent is messaging me right now on our work chat, the art for Chick in the playtest is not going to be the final art for Chick. One of the revisions that we're most excited about is Chick currently has a bit of an Asmodean, like reds and blacks. We weren't sure the direction we were going was on Shalin at the time. We have firm direction now, and Kent is bringing that to life. So it will not be there in the playtest and the final rules, and some of the art we'll be previewing, I'm sure, over the next year. Oh boy, the revised Chick art. Mint. I'll leave you with that though, because I think that's going to be it for us here from the Starfinder team. We are back for a panel tomorrow. The Starfinder team, just the creative righty side. Kyle won't be with us for that one because we're going to be talking more about Starfinder First Edition and into Second Edition and what that transition kind of looked like. That panel is tomorrow, so please come check us out. I think that's at noon to 1 Pacific. Otherwise, since I'm probably having someone come at me with a cane to pull us off screen, I'm just going to go really quick. Everyone give your sign off, starting with Dustin.
My name's Dustin Knight, developer for Starfinder. Please ask me questions and participate in the AMA on the Discord, and go to starfinderplaytest.com.
Jenny.
Yeah, I'm Jenny Jarzabski, senior developer, same as Dustin. Come talk to us in the Discord.
Mike Kimmel.
Same thing, Mike Kimmel.
Wow.
I'm on Discord. I have an AMA. I will talk to you about everything that I'm allowed to.
Not the Witch Warper,
Not
though.
Witch Warper.
Jessica.
Hey, I'm Jessica Catalan. I will see you in 2 hours from now. I'm on another panel. Ask me about organized play. And then I'll also see you on the Ask Me Anything thread I have on Discord. Come ask me questions.
Yeah, Kyle.
Kyle Hunter, art director for Starfinder, and if I can help it, you'll never find me.
Okay, salesman. And I have been your
questions and comments will reach me.
I have been your moderator, Thurston Hillman, the managing creative director for Starfinder. You can find me at all the things at On Call GM and at the AMA, where I can answer whatever I want because I make the rules. So if you want your Witch Warper questions, come to my AM. No, but thank you all for coming. We're really excited to showcase more about Starfinder, talk more about Starfinder, and you can come back in, I believe, 3 hours, and you will see the first live play stream game of a campaign we're going to be doing. So come back for that and see a bit more Starfinder. Okay, we're actually over now. Bye, everybody.
Bye.